But at some point, you may need to look other places as well. So this particular session hopefully is going to give you some pointers just on how to really explore the whole broad aspect of getting to college. So without any further ado, well, I guess I should say, so Jesika, I'll give a little bio, I forget because I've known you for so long. So Jesika has 2 Virginia Tech degrees. She has a bachelor's in biological systems engineering. And then I understand this, I kind of did the same thing, went back after that and got my education degree. And so Jesika also has a master's from Virginia Tech in integrated STEM education. That's the right degree? And she's now a technology teacher up at Henrico High in Richmond, but she still comes back to Virginia Tech. We still interact and we still work together on outreach programs. She's the director of our Black Engineering Excellence at Virginia Tech summer program. Happy to turn that over to her every year. So a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise, and I'm super excited to have her here with us tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Jesika.
Thank you, Dr. Lester, for that great introduction. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint, and I can share this PowerPoint also with Dr. Lester so that you all can have access to it as well. And since this is a pretty small group, if there's anything that you all have questions, you can jump in, ask, or ask it in the chat, and I'll be checking the chat periodically so that I can see, what everyone's asking. So first, Dr. Lester already introduced me, so I'll skip the introduction part. What I wanted to do is start with my high school experience. So when I was in high school, I grew up in North Carolina, so I went to school in North Carolina. I graduated in 2017 when I was 16 years old, so I graduated a year early. I got into Virginia Tech engineering. I applied to a lot of schools, but I got into Virginia Tech and NC State, and I really, really liked Virginia Tech due to Women's Preview Weekend and things like that, and had scholarships, and I had a good GPA, and that was great. So coming out of high school, I felt like I was pretty set up. I was good to go. Like everything was good. College was not going to be that difficult for me. And I was very wrong. So once I did get into college, my freshman year, it was kind of a shock it's always a shock and a transition from going to high school to college. So my first semester, I ended with a 3.2, which wasn't bad. However, in order to declare your engineering major at the end of your freshman year, you needed a 3.0 at the time. So I was kind of stressing because I was really hitting close to the 3.2 or the 3.0 mark. I took 19 credit hours my sophomore year or the spring semester, my freshman year, for whatever reason. And my GPA fell down to a 2.7 at the end of that year. One of the biggest things that I realized over that year was that I was committed to too much. So I was involved in too many clubs and organizations at one time. And I was also going out too much, not really balancing my social and academic life at the same time, not really understanding how to study either. That was one of the biggest things, is not knowing how to study. When you're in high school, you learn how to memorize and regurgitate. In college, you cannot do that because you will fail. And that's what I learned the hard way. So everybody, all my friends got into their majors because their GPA was the 3.0 or above, and I was still stuck in general engineering for the beginning of my sophomore year. So by the time a couple weeks after sophomore year started, I got into my major. But I was super serious my sophomore year. I was like, okay, I'm not going to play around. Like, I'm going to study. I'm not going to do anything else but study all the time. So it was so bad that I would wake up like on Saturday mornings, like at 7:00 in the morning, and study all the way to like 9 or 10 o'clock at night with one of my friends. And we would do that almost every weekend instead of going out. And so that in turn hurt me because I was isolating. I was studying too much, which sounds crazy, but I was studying too much. I wasn't really giving myself time to breathe. So that took a toll on like my mental health and all the other things like that. Then my GPA fell again. So I was like, okay, I really, really need to get it back up this time so I can stay in school. So junior year came around, and then COVID happened, which by junior year, I did find a balance between my academics, my social life, and also the other extracurriculars I was passionate about. So by then I had finally got my groove into things. until COVID happened, and then that kind of ruined a lot. But I still managed to keep my grades up during that time. And then my goal was to get a 3.0 by the time I graduated. However, I only got up to a 2.8. That's still fine. My graduation by my senior year, I was really goal driven. I knew I wanted to go to grad school. A lot of people around me were telling me, oh, well, your GPA isn't high enough to go to grad school. They probably won't accept you, all these things. But me being me, I went ahead and applied anyway. So I applied to grad school. And these are just a snapshot of my grades freshman year. So they were okay. I got a C in chemistry, a couple A's, B's. The W means withdrawal, which means I dropped the class and took it again the next semester. But the spring semester, my freshman year, was 3 C's and 3 A's. So that didn't really balance out too well. So what can you do with a low GPA? So essentially, even though I had a low GPA, I applied to 4 different grad schools. I got into Johns Hopkins, Virginia Tech, UVA, and also the University of Georgia. I was able to, have dinner and have a speech in front of President Sands and his cohort of friends and things like that. I was able to be in Virginia Tech news articles. I was able to study abroad. And most all, I graduated. So that was the biggest thing. So this isn't necessarily to toot my own horn, but just to show that even if you start off rough, or if you had that 1 or 2 years in high school where this just was not your year, or COVID really messed you up and you lost your motivation to want to go to school, and you kind of just found it your junior or senior year, it's not too late. You still have the opportunity to make the best of your situation and still chase your dreams and go to college and do whatever it is that you want to do that you're passionate about. So that's the intro I always like to give people, because I want others to understand that I wasn't just always this stellar student all the time. I was in high school, but then once I got to college, it was kind of like a tussle. So knowing that it's okay if you dip for a little bit, but as long as you work towards improving and getting yourself back up, then the results will show. And then in my grades in grad school, so my first semester in grad school ended with 3.82. So that was great for me. I was really happy with myself doing that. So even though it shows my grades from undergrad sucked, but when I went to grad school, it was a lot better. So, it shows that you can always have room for improvement. So if your grades aren't the best right now when you're in high school, when you get to college, that may not always necessarily be the case. So just don't psych yourself out when it comes to that. All right, so some of the things we're going to talk about is picking the right major, college and major, funding and scholarships, standardized testing, how to write a good essay, how to make your application stand out, and then also having a Q&A session at the end. So this is just a disclaimer. This is just a general overview of college applications overall. For any Virginia Tech specific questions, you can hold them until the end. If I can answer them, then I will. But this is just in general. So this is not all Virginia Tech specific, but I will add Virginia Tech references here and there because that's what I know best. So first, picking the right major. So when you're looking for the major, do not pick. One of the biggest things that you do not want to do is pick a major because your parents told you to do that specific major, or your parents want you to be a doctor, but you actually want to go be a businessman or a businesswoman or something like that. If that's what you're passionate about, go pursue that. You will be very unhappy in college if you pursue a major that you really don't enjoy, especially getting into a career in it and everything like that. You just will not be passionate about it. So finding stuff that you already like now. If you like video games, try doing computer science or video game design if that's something that you're interested in. There's all types of different ways that you can turn the things that you like now into a career. If you like sports, if you like basketball, football, things like that, try kinesiology or sports medicine, things like that that can still tailor your passions and what you like into a career. So just thinking about it in ways like that. Other things that can help you figure out what you want to do or the type of college you want to go to is going to different college summer camps. So a lot of universities, also Virginia Tech, along with others, have programs over the summer where the students can go for either a day or for a couple days and get to have that immersive experience at that college. Another thing that can help is clubs in high school and also middle school if you're in middle school, and different sports as well. But choosing the right college, there's three main things that you want to pay attention to when you're choosing your college: university programs and ranking, support services and diversity offices, and also community college options as well. So with department rankings, one of the biggest things is you do not want to go to a college just because my whole family went there, or my friends are going there, or my boyfriend or girlfriend are going there. Do not go to college or go to a specific college for that reason, or they have a really good football team or something to that extent. Say if you want to be a nurse and you want to start with studying biology or doing some type of pre-med track, you may see this really, really good school that's notably a great school, but they may not have that great of a biology program. So that's why it's really important to look more at the department and the program, along with the school as a whole, but mostly focus on how well is this department ranked? Have they ever lost accreditation before? And accreditation is really just showing that the school is teaching the students what they're supposed to be learning. It's up to date, and whatever they're learning right now is going to be applicable in the workplace at the most updated current time. And schools usually run through accreditations every 2 to 4 years, depending on the program. So checking that is very important, because that is going to determine the type of job you get, because the jobs and the people who are looking to hire students look at those types of things when they're hiring people. The other thing to look for is diversity rankings, recruiter picks. So how often are recruiters coming to pick the students to work for their companies, and also student happiness as well. Since this is a place you're going to be living at for the next 4 to 5 years, you're going to want to make sure that you actually enjoy being there. Another thing is retention rate. So retention rate is something that essentially is the percentage of students that return the second year. So when you look up colleges, you'll see the graduation rate, and for some specific programs, you may see a retention rate. Looking at that graduation rate is really, really important, because if only about 50% of the students are graduating, then that may say a lot about the program and the support that it may have for the students. Another thing is for the retention rate. So for example, say if you want to do engineering at another school and that school's retention rate is like 60%, that's kind of like saying 60% of the students that come in as freshmen continue as engineers as sophomores. So that could speak to the rigor of the program, the lack of support, or a bunch of different factors. So you want to make sure that retention rate is high. Somewhere around 90% or higher is considered pretty high. An average would probably be between like 75 or 80% or something like that for a retention rate. Another thing is diversity office and support for students. So if your school is considered a PWI, which stands for predominantly white institution, that would be very important. If you identify as a minority, then you would want to find a diversity office or a support office in order to support you while you're at the college. I didn't understand the importance or understand the purpose of what diversity offices were when I was in high school, but I am so glad they exist, because that really, really is one of the main reasons I was able to go through grad school and undergrad, and really just have a great time and really push through my 5 years that I was at Virginia Tech. So it's really important to have these type of support services, helping students like find their group of people, or find different support avenues to support you in your academics, support you emotionally, in some cases even financially if they have specific scholarships for diverse students and things like that. So it's really important to go see if the school has a diversity office and how well is it running. So community college options. So Virginia has a great community college pipeline program. So for Virginia community colleges, they have programs where if you do well the first 2 years in community college and keep above a certain GPA average, then you will automatically get admitted into specific colleges in Virginia. So you have to work with the counselor at the community college, and they can work with you to figure out how you do that. You do the first 2 years at community college, and the last 2 years would be at whatever 4-year university you decide, and then you would get your bachelor's degree, and you would come in as a junior. So your credits would transfer over to there. So it's a great way if you really don't know what you want to do yet, or you just want to get those baseline classes out the way, or you just want to save money to start off with. So that's a great way to navigate your way to college as well. So a lot of people think, how many schools should I apply to? You may have friends that have like 20 schools on their list. You may have friends that only have one school on their list. But my say is to choose at least 4 or 5 to 6 schools. 2 schools being your high ranked schools, the low acceptance, Ivy Leagues, things like that. Then you have your top 3 choices, so your personal 3 favorites, and then 1 to 2 safety schools. And by safety schools, I mean like backup schools, schools that probably a lot of students from your high school go to, or a college that you know maybe has a higher acceptance rate, or a college that I know if I apply, I'm going to get in, and I probably wouldn't mind going here, but it may not be your top choice. So having a combination of 2 and not putting all of your schools in the high ranking basket is a great way to diversify the types of colleges that you go to, so that you can have a lot of different colleges to compare to when you start getting those acceptance letters back. Another thing is finding funding. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know there's other sessions that talk about this, but I'll briefly go over some things. So with finding funding, there's more ways, but the 3 main ways are financial aid, scholarships and grants, and then you also have student loans. And in that order, you want to make sure you do your FAFSA first, which is your financial aid. Scholarships and grants also come in with that, and then student loans should be your last option. So keep that in mind. So with FAFSA, I'm not going to go too much into detail about FAFSA, but it opens up in December this year. It usually opens up in October, but this year it's December. And essentially, when you apply for the FAFSA, you'll have to do that your senior year, right before you're about to apply to colleges. And it's this really long, extensive application, but you'll have to do it with your parent. They'll ask for tax information and all that. And when you do that, it'll not only allow you to receive federal aid, but it also will allow you to be eligible for other scholarships that you may have not applied for. So once you give this FAFSA to the schools, they may even put scholarships on your award letter that you may have not applied to, but based on your FAFSA, you qualify for based on the household income and whatever other information is on your FAFSA document. With grants and scholarships, this is money that you do not owe back. So with looking for grants and scholarships, if you want to go on websites like scholarships.com, niche, and things like that, you can, but because that is one of probably the first 3 websites that'll pop up when you look up for scholarships, a lot of people are going to be applying to those scholarships. So the pool is going to be very large. I would suggest looking for smaller scholarships, going on the college website itself and seeing if they have any scholarships, looking for diversity scholarships, talking to your high school counselor to see if there's any scholarships, because there's usually a lot, but they get lost in the announcements or not many people know about them. Another thing to do is check with your parents. Where do they work? Are there any scholarships from the companies that they work for and things like that? So try looking in many different places, and even the scholarships, even there for $100, $200, those scholarships tend to add up over time. So be sure to apply to all of them, and be sure to look in different places, because the less applicants that apply to a scholarship, the more likely that you'll receive the money. And then I'm not really going to go over the student loans too much. Standardized testing will be pretty short. So with standardized testing, with the AP classes and the SAT and ACT, luckily due to COVID, a lot of schools are test optional now. So with the test optional, that means that you don't necessarily have to take the SAT or ACT unless you would like to. And if you feel like taking those tests would help enhance your application, then by all means go ahead. But I wouldn't even worry about paying for the test if all the schools that you're applying to don't even require you to take it. With AP exams, you do have to pass the AP exam in order to receive credit. However, each school is different. Each school is different in terms of the score that you need to receive in order to receive credit at that college. So just make sure that you go on the college website, look up what their AP test score requirements are and make sure. So for example, if you're taking APUSH, which is AP US History, for that credit, what would I need, a 3 or a 4 or something like that? So that's what you can kind of aim for when you are taking those tests. And this is pretty much what I just went over. Another thing is there's ways to get fee waivers. Fee waivers waive the fee, meaning that you will not have to you will not have to pay to take these exams. So usually if you are on free and reduced lunch at school, you would be automatically eligible to receive a fee waiver. So it's just a matter of talking to your counselor and seeing if there is a way that they can provide you with a fee waiver if you qualify for these exams. Also, this also applies for applying to college as well, but that would be a means of talking to your counselor and figuring out how that works. And then these were just some tips. The other thing is how to write a good essay. So just a few points. When you're writing your essays, you don't want it to be a list of your accomplishments. And I'm not going to go too much in detail because I know there's a session talking about essay writing. However, you don't want to go on a list talking about all of your accomplishments because most of the things that you'll probably talk about are already in your application somewhere else. So use this time or this space to talk about things that they probably wouldn't know about you based off of your application. These people don't know you. They've never met you. They never met your family. So you need to be vulnerable and be open to talking about everything that you can in those 250 to 500 words or however long the essay is supposed to be. Making it personal is going to be great. Not making it the same cliche essay that everybody would write. Don't necessarily write what you think they want to hear. Write what comes from you and comes from your heart and what you think. Speak about yourself because everybody's story is different. So no one's going to have the same unique story as you. So make sure that you write to that aspect. There's going to be different essay topics that you can choose from. Don't try to pick the most intricate questions so you can sound the smartest on your essay. Just write the one that you feel that you can write best towards. They're giving you all these options for a reason. So don't just pick the one that you think, oh, I'm going to sound really smart if I write about this. Just write about what you feel most comfortable, because in that case, you'll be able to write a well-structured essay if you write something about you actually enjoy. Your essay is a way to also use your disadvantages. So in COVID, since that usually affected a lot of students, there's usually a section within Common App, which is the website that students use in order to apply to college for most colleges. There's a section for you to talk about COVID and how that impacted your academic journey, if it did. Use that to talk about that. Even if COVID remotely affected you in any way, like still talk about that because they want to know. Don't think that, oh, my freshman year COVID happened and I just didn't do any work, like it just wasn't great, or I just didn't have a computer, things like that. You need to talk about so that they can understand why your grades looked at the way that they do. If there was other things going on at home that you would want to speak about, that's another place to put that as well. And use your disadvantages as your advantage. If you don't say anything, they do not know. So tell it all. That's my biggest thing with essays is tell it all. Okay. Other things to make your application stand out. So with making your application stand out, there's things that you can do like volunteering in extracurriculars, especially if Virginia Tech is on your list. UPROSM is one of our biggest models, which means that I may serve, and you will very much likely get a question on your essays asking what does UPROSM mean to you. And if you don't volunteer and you don't do anything, then it'll be a hard question to ask or answer. So get involved, volunteer for something. It could be once a week, something that you're passionate about, whether it's like I volunteer at church once a week or I volunteer at the soup kitchen once a month, something that is continuous that you can elaborate on in your essay and how it impacted you or your community. Another thing is high school internships and dual enrollment. If your school does not offer dual enrollment, that is okay. When you apply to college, they look to see how much did you try yourself, did you apply yourself? Did you just take the minimum classes to pass and then you just stop taking math classes? Or it's like, oh, I only needed 3 science classes, so I only took the 3 and now I'm done. If you're interested in doing something science related, it would look great on your transcript to take an extra science class in that specific subject, or take that extra math class, and things like that. So be sure to try to take advantage of the different classes that your school has to offer, and they want to see that you challenged yourself over the course of your 4 years while you were in high school. High school internships are a thing that wasn't a thing when I was in high school. However, if you come across one, definitely take that as an opportunity to shadow somebody in their work, or to get that hands-on work experience prior to going to college. And that'd be a great thing to talk about in your essays or talk about in your application as well. Also video applications. So video applications is something that is kind of niche. I did one because my brother told me to. I didn't want to, because I was thinking, what do I look like going on YouTube telling these people why I want to go to their school? But I did it anyway. I made the video private and I added it at the end of my application, and they actually looked at it. So that was pretty cool. So if you really want to go that extra mile for the school that you really, really want to go to, I would do that if that's something that you wouldn't mind doing. So that's just a tip. All right, so this is, I believe, almost the last one. What application decision should I choose? So when you apply to college, there's going to be several different application deadlines, and some of them sound kind of confusing. So I'm going to break them down here. First, you have regular decision. So regular decision is the regular deadline they give everybody, and that's the date that everybody's application is due. Then you have rolling admission. Rolling admission, you may see these at community colleges pretty often, is the rolling admission. So rolling admission means that they're accepting applications all the time on a yearly, well, not a yearly basis, but they're accepting applications all year. You may have deadlines for certain documents, but for the majority, they're accepting applications all year. Then you have early action, and that's really big to know the difference between early action and early decision, and I'll explain the difference. So with early action, you apply early, and these deadlines are usually in about November, December, versus regular decision usually being due between January and March. When you have early action, you just basically get your application in early and you send it in, but you just want to make sure you have everything ready, everything done. Just note that if you're a senior, they're going to look at the end of your junior year GPA. So just keep that in mind, because that is what's going to be on your transcript when you send it to the colleges. So if you do early action, then you will be looking at your end of junior year GPA. Now, if you do regular decision, then they'll look at the GPA that is at the end of your winter semester. So right after winter break, whenever the second quarter ends, that is what the GPA they're going to look at if you decide to do regular decision. With early decision, so early decision, early action, they sound very similar, but they are two different things. With early decision is making a commitment saying that if I get to this college, or if I get accepted into this college, this is the college that I'm going to go to. So when you do this, they only recommend that you only do this for one college. Do not do this for multiple colleges. Only do this for one college. So just note, when you are applying for colleges, note the difference between early action and early decision. You can do early action for as many schools as you want to, but early decision, only one school. All right. So where to start? Starting with your essays, FAFSA, recommendation letters, if you need to have some. Some colleges aren't even requiring recommendation letters anymore. And then also knowing your deadlines. With your GPA, checking your GPA, transcripts, standardized testing, if you need to have tests or not, joining any clubs or involving yourself in extracurriculars if you can. Campus tours and summer camps. And campus tours and summer camps are one of the, in my opinion, one of the best ways to get to know if you want to do a major or if you really like a college or not. When I was in high school, I had a lot of colleges on my list, and I crossed out at least half of them just because I didn't like the campus. I didn't like the campus location, or I don't know, I just didn't think that I would thrive in the atmosphere of the college. And you can feel that and note that when you're actually on campus doing tours and things like that. So that's a great way to kind of know, so you don't even have to waste time applying to a college that you may not be that impressed by. Then after that, you double check all the above and just making sure you're doing everything that you need to do. So right now, what we're going to do is, if you have your laptop with you, well, before I'm going to do a Q&A, and then after that, I'm going to show you all a resource that you all can use in order to help start planning out your list of colleges you're going to apply to. So first, I'll do a Q&A. So you can either unmute your mic or you can type it in the chat or anything like that. Okay. Well, if there's no questions, then I'll just keep going. So what I'm going to show you all, and if you have your computer with you, I would highly suggest following along. So what I'm going to show is a resource website that I've created called Dreams to Degrees. And it's supposed to help you navigate the college application process. So everything that I just said right now is going to be on this website, and it's easy for you to navigate. So if you type in on Google, dreams, the number 2, and then degrees.com. And Dr. Lester put it in the chat also, so if you want to just click the link. It should look like this. So once you get to this page, this is the home page. And it has all different resources here, like choosing the right college, making your essay stand out, scholarships, and each grade that you're in, you can click that and it'll tell you a list of things that you need to do to prepare for applying to college. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going to the planning guide. So you're gonna click planning guide, and you're gonna scroll down to college planning guide. Once you get there, it's going to ask you to open up a Google Sheets. If you're not already logged into Google, it'll ask you to log in. So you'll open that, make a copy. So by making this copy, this is going to stay in your Google Drive, so you'll be able to pull it up whenever you feel like it. So when you pull up the page, it's going to look something like this. I'm going to make it full screen so that you all can see it better. Okay, so when you pull up the page, it'll look like this. This is an example on what your college list will look like when you're about done with it. So you have your colleges here, you have the program and the major that you want to do, the deadline to apply. So whatever deadline you choose, the FAFSA priority deadline, which that's a really important deadline. That deadline is the deadline that you need to submit your FAFSA by. Did I add this school to my FAFSA? You can press yes, not yet. Did I submit my high school transcript? Am I required to take the SAT or ACT? And that's going to be something that's really important so that you don't waste money or time taking it if you don't have to take it. So you can put yes or no. Application fee. So there are fees that are associated with applying to the colleges. So just make sure that you know what these are. And then can you get a fee waiver? So making sure to know if you can get a fee waiver or not, and that'll be a matter of talking to your counselor. So the next tab over is blank for you to type in whatever colleges that you're wanting to apply to. So you can freely type there. For college example 1, this tells you about the college in more detail once you start doing a little bit more research about the college. If you get recommendation letters, who are you asking from? Your first choice major, your second choice major. Some schools ask you for 2 major choices. Some of them just ask you for 1. If they have diversity offices, you can fill that out here. all of these from Virginia Tech, these are actual real diversity offices, by the way, just saying. And then also if you have any scholarships that are college specific that you're trying to apply to, and you can just organize all of that right here. And then they have different blank tabs for you to add so that you can do that. So one big question is, where do I even go to start looking or finding information on the colleges? One of the biggest, most reliable sources that I use is the US World News college rankings. So if you go in another Google tab, you can just search up US World News college rankings. And this is the most reliable source that I've used. There's other websites and all the rankings will be all over the place, but this is a great one to use. So once you're looking at colleges, you'll scroll down, it has all different types. So you have liberal arts colleges, it even has HBCUs, engineering programs, business programs, all of that. So say if I just go to national universities itself, I'll click that. And for there, you want to make sure this filter is blank so you can put whatever you want there. So say I want to major in psychology. I'm going to go down here to the area of study. And this has all the different areas of studies that are generally offered at colleges. I can go down here and I can click psychology. And now it's showing me this number right here, all the schools in the country that offer psychology as a major. However, you want to make sure you sort it by ranking and not alphabetical order, because alphabetical order, the list is going to look the same every time. So we'll rank this high to low. And so when you rank them high to low, you'll probably see the same ones on top: Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, the top, Ivy League universities. However, if you want to be more Taylor specific, you can look, okay, maybe I just want to stay in Virginia. So I can go in location, I can type in Virginia. And now it's going to give me the top schools in Virginia that offer psychology. So like before, when we were talking about you want to go to a school for their high ranking program, not necessarily just the ranking of the school itself, this is where you would go into more detail and figuring out, okay, what program specifically is highly ranked in the area that I'm looking. So you have UVA, you have Virginia Tech, William and Mary, all of that. So say if I click Virginia Tech, for example, this is going to give me all types of information about the college. Tells me the undergraduate enrollment. It tells me their acceptance rate. It tells me their tuition and fees. It also tells me their application deadline, which is March 15th, their acceptance rate, SAT range, if you do take it. If you go to this tab that says admissions, it shows you all the other stuff like the $60 application fee, standardized test required. It says neither SAT or ACT, meaning that you don't have to take either. We're test optional and things like that. So everything you need to find is pretty much going to be on this website. So this is a great source that I've used even to look for graduate schools. This is a great source to use for finding the different colleges that you may be interested in, so you can widen and expand the different colleges you're applying to. So, yep. In short, that is pretty much the majority of what I have. I do offer college prep coaching. So if you want to connect more and talk like more personal about your situation and trying to get your college applications ready, review essays and things like that, I am open to that. This is my personal email. It's just my first and last name @gmail.com. And then my cell phone number is right there too. So if you just want to text me, I'm also perfectly fine with that as well. But that is essentially what I have. I know I went through most of that pretty quickly, but I did want to give you all time to go ahead and get started on working on your college application or your college list and things like that. Can I expand more about early decisions? So Do you have a specific question about early decision? I'll go back to that slide. Okay. So with early decision versus early action, so what they say is early action is non-binding and early decision is binding. So by binding, it means that you're essentially like signing a contract saying that if I get accepted to this school, this is a school that I'm going to. That's why they say only do it for one school, which would probably be your number one choice school if they offer the early decision option, to do that. If not, then early action would be the way that you want to go, because even if you do get accepted, you wouldn't be in a binding position where you would have to go and there wouldn't be any restrictions or anything like that. Early decision applications are usually due around the same time as early action in like November and December. Let me know if that answers your question as well. Yes, Dr. Lester also mentioned that with early decision, you have to commit before knowing your financial aid package, meaning you have to commit to the school before knowing how much scholarship money or financial aid money you're going to receive or not. So it's kind of like, you're taking your chances there. Does anybody else have any other questions?
So get those questions in now. Jessica's a wealth of information about college process, and she's been through college a lot more recently than I have. So even if if there's anything else you want to know about college, about graduate school, about her path, and her process and decisions and what it was like, we got a small group here. This is the time to ask her.
Yeah. And I'm real open. I'll tell you exactly what happened.
And she will tell you the truth, and she will be honest about it. So we don't, and she does not work or attend the university at this point in time. So
Yeah. And I'm helping my seniors now apply to college. So I know like at least what the Common App is asking for right now. Because some stuff has changed since I applied, but most of the stuff is the same. Or if you don't want to ask it out loud, you can always email or text me and we can have a conversation there too. That's okay.
well, I appreciate Jessica for coming on tonight, and thank her for coming on tonight. And if there aren't any further questions, then I'll be happy to give her back 15 minutes that she didn't think she might have. And thank you everybody for tonight. We will have this recording. We will post it with all of the other ones in the What's Up Wednesday folder. Next week, oh my gosh. I'm trying to remember what is next week's session? Wait, I can look it up quickly. All right, on the schedule for next week, we are going to have Dr. Deanna Kate talk about our engineering living learning communities, Hypatia for women, Galileo for men. Although they really are kind of one community, they live in the same residence hall. And I know that Jessica participated in Hypatia as well. Last week I talked about Women's Preview Weekend. She was also a Women's Preview Weekend participant. So Jessica has pretty much done every role, task, job in seed, you know, all the way from her high school time through graduate school. So again, she's a great resource, and she truly doesn't mind reaching out and talking to you. You know, we both have the same goal of helping people make those decisions, make the right choice for themselves, knowing what opportunities are out there. So thank you, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you back next week. And thank you, Jessica.
Yep, thank you.